the mirroring, so the wording is right. Let's see.
I'm trying to figure out if we're actually live because we
Oh,
shouldn't
here it is.
be.
I got it. Mirror view. There we go.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Yay.
How are you tonight?
Excellent.
Good.
I'm actually happy this happened, you know? It's like a happy accident.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Share
So,
share more.
well, um, I should have my own platform. I should have my own network. I've been doing this for 10 years.
Really?
Yeah. I've been podcasting since 2009, 2015.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So, and I actually used to have my own StreamYard. Um, yeah. And right now, I don't know, not right now, I would say in the past 6 months, I've kind of uh, given away a lot of my power, you know, um,
Hmm.
in different ways, because I thought that, oh, I can't do this by myself. It's better, I'll just join somebody else's something and all those kind of things. And yeah, I I need the flexibility of, just doing my own thing. Because I want to be able to have a show whenever I want to have a show. You know, I
Right.
don't want. Am I? But I don't think we're live. I'm like, because it says live recording, but I don't think so. I am trying to see. Nope. Cancel. Oh no, this is a preview.
Okay.
So I have to click on live. Only you can see and hear. Okay. Yep. Yeah. But I'm very happy that we're having this conversation.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So the thing that you just said that makes me say this is that you've come so far in your personal journey. This process is kind of gives me a insight into. You said you've been given your power away,
Mhm.
which is a similar kind of process when you were in the relationship.
Mhm.
So my urge to you is to reevaluate and to step into your own and
Yes.
bust through that cycle and take the next step forward.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
And evaluate why you did what you did,
Yeah.
because that's going to uncover the source.
Of the cycle.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because the real question is, how much does StreamYard cost?
I mean, it's $25 a month. Well, the promise was that I would have, production support. And so far, every time I've gone live, I've not had production support. The other promise is like what I said in the email. I have access to their network and I would have all these viewers. My viewership isn't any bigger than it ever was. Yeah. I think rather I'm bringing more viewers to their network by being on there, you know. So, but not anymore. Because
That's day one.
yeah, I can't I can't do that, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
not
I even read the tone when you said if you're going to use your network, you'd have to move to another time or da da da. It was kind of like
Mhm.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like I scheduled this, I feel like a week ago, and I was called at 5:30 yesterday evening, you know?
Mm,
So I got what, 26 hours notice,
mm,
and I'm just like, I gotta inform my guest, gotta potentially change my platform. And what if I didn't have my own backup? What if I didn't have
mhm,
Riverside?
mhm.
Yeah, so and
Well,
Rivers
if you
yeah.
didn't, you would have purchased StreamYard or the other the other one that I use something or have used something else. Just like StreamYard, but it's just different.
Mhm.
You just do it, pivot, and keep it moving.
Yeah, very true. So I'm not really sure how this works because I've never used like because I have an intro and outro, I have your commercial. I'm not sure if I can do any of those things here. Um, yeah, I uploaded all of those videos, but I don't know how to use them in here. So I'll just, introduce it like normal.
Hmm.
And then what? Uh,
And
and
how long's the show?
it's like 30
No,
minutes.
okay.
Yeah. We have class at 8, right? Or is it
Mhm.
9?
It's 8.
It's at 8. Okay. All right. Let me find the live button again. Hmm. It's not connected to my YouTube. Hmm.
Oh, there it is, happening now. Beyond emotional abuse. I
Are
love
we
it.
live right now?
No.
Okay.
Oh, we
Scheduled. Join session. Join studio. Oh, what is happening? What's happening?
are. Oh, there it is, happening now. Beyond emotional abuse. I
Are
love
we
it.
live?
And we are now. We are live. Oh,
Are we live now?
we're
Oh,
live.
okay. Yay!
I have
Welcome to What People Miss.
one of my Facebook friends is watching live with us.
Oh, really? So we've been talking live this whole time?
Probably no. And we are now. We are live.
Oh, excellent. So you guys know the behind the scenes story. So
I have one of my Facebook friends
okay.
is watching.
Well, let us begin again. So now that you've seen the behind the scenes, I love that we did a behind the scenes before the show. Um, so what people miss is a podcast that I started in January of this year because I was thinking about the subtleties of life. And that's where life is really lived. And it reminds me of the quote by Mozart that I say every episode, which is he says, the music in the notes, but in the silence between like we really go live. Not the truth. It's what's happening before we leave. That's the truth. And so I want to have a real conversation about emotional abuse. And if you tuned in before 7 o'clock, you heard a little bit of what it looks like. There are cycles and patterns that we have etched in our being, and it shows up in places in ways that we don't think that still exists within us. And so let's just start with, does it just show up in personal relationships?
Nope. Not at all. It shows up in every area of your life. How you do one thing is how you do everything. But I think the power comes when you recognize the pattern. Okay. Even as if like AA and NA, right? Those organizations, the first step is having an awareness to say, hey, I've got an issue, I got a problem. And then from that's only from there can you now take the next steps.
Yeah, that's true. So, um, like with my pivot tonight, right? Um, I that's something that I'll be reflecting on after, after we finish tonight. And so let's talk about your story, Dr. Marcia. So, have you experienced emotional abuse in your career or in your personal life? And how did you know that was happening?
Yeah. So the answer is yes. And the thing that was the most, I'm going to say the most eye opening, is that I didn't even realize that it was emotional abuse, right? I never said it was, I never said the word abuse until after I was already out of the relationship. And for me to actually say the words, I was abused. And the thing that is even more, I guess, was more eye opening is that I didn't think emotional abuse was abuse. We always hear about those, that are victims of physical abuse. And everybody's like, yes, that's physical abuse. But do I have the same trauma or drama from being emotionally abused? Yeah, it's just a continuum. Anybody who was physically abused, it didn't just one day start, they were physically abused, they were hit, they were whatever. There were some other things that happened along the way that we don't identify them as abuse. And so I would say I was 50 years old when I I was 49 when I left my marriage. And that is when I was like, you know what, this is abuse. This is abusive behavior. And at that point I had said that was enough.
Yeah. So, in the description or the original description of this um, episode, I had found uh, a definition according to womenslaw.org, and it says emotional abuse is defined as mostly non physical behaviors that the abuser uses to control, isolate, or frighten you. Often the abuser uses it to break down your self esteem and self worth in order to create psychological dependency on him or her. And so you're saying at that point, you realize that you were psychologically dependent in that relationship.
Hmm. So I would say I'm trying to think. I think it's deeper or broader than that. You said there is an attempt to break you down. What is the substrate? Is that when I was in a place where I already was broken down.
Hmm.
I already had enough um, I'm going to say it's not self-loathing, but low self-esteem and low confidence because of some other things that had happened in life. And so I think folks who are victims of emotional abuse, many times they come in deficient in confidence. And so now you are a target and now you stay. There's some people who they say, you know what, if I emotionally abuse, I am out of here, sister. I'm, bump that, I'm out, right? But when you have folks that are that are already broken, that's what it is. If you already have some brokenness, you're already in pieces, there the aggressor knows how to work it. And so that's where the dependence comes. You
Hmm.
know, they say they're sorry. They love bomb you. They do the things that you now are connected to them and dependent. And from that, now you're into, we talked about cycles. Now we're into that cycle where now it feels safe to be in that push pull situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm listening to you and I'm recognizing that in in my situation. I was 48 years old when I left my relationship. So um that's true. So now for someone who may be viewing or listening, right? And they're listening and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's me." What do they do? What was, what's the next step?
Mhm. So I think so. The first step is awareness, saying, hey, you know what? I have been emotionally abused. And that's when people are saying stuff, they're doing stuff, they're talking to other people about you. You're feeling like it's your fault for the stuff that's happening. You can add in the whole gaslighting bit, right? So then you can lead into arguments, and they argue a certain way that makes you feel. One of the things that used to happen to me is that we would have an argument, and he would always leave out. And he would leave out in a certain place that now makes you feel vulnerable or exposed, especially if their kids were home. So you get to leave. You're mad. You get to leave. But now you leave me with the responsibility of the children. Then you stay out longer than you need to. And so that's also the abandonment part of it, right? Then you don't want to talk when you come back. And then what happened for me is that one argument led to the next argument, and the carryover never never dissipated. It was always just it was a pressure cooker that kind of just kept growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. Okay. So I think that is part of, that process.
Yeah, and when that pressure cooker is like, to a certain point, like for me, I prayed, like a lot of people probably do, except for that final prayer was, "Let me leave this relationship with grace and dignity."
Hmm. Yes, I agree with that. I spent many years trying to stay, and then I had to give myself permission to leave.
Yeah. And what did that permission look like for you?
That permission looked like me. I hired a coach, my very first coach, and I worked on my exit strategy.
Mm,
And it was uncomfortable. Okay. It didn't feel good. It engendered anxiety, even as I'm packing stuff up, you know, hiding things to make sure that my kids were going to be okay. Um, it was very anxiety provoking. So but I got the help I needed to methodically kind of take the steps in order to get prepared, if that's even a thing, right? It's a misnomer, but it helped me, feel like I wasn't alone, that there was some validation in what I was saying, and I had somebody to help me to kind of navigate that uncomfortable space.
and so you prepared yourself to physically leave, but then what about the inside of you?
So I laughed at this. I chuckle um, with my best friend, and I would always say paper or plastic, because that meant I had checked out. I was
Mm,
like, okay, am I going to get a paper bag, the paper bags or the plastic bags? Because I am checked out, and I was already mentally gone.
mm,
I just had the physical going, but that was also drama producing.
mm. Did you feel like a shell of who you
Yeah, yeah. I was not who I had been. I am a fun-loving, laughing, joyous. I mean, I just like I love to laugh, and I really had gotten to the place where I was just surviving. I'm just nothing. Nothing was fun. I wanted to be there for my children. I went through the motions. Work and church and food and laundry and bills, and it was very methodical, and I really felt like I was dying. And to add one additional layer here, I'm not sure if I thought about killing myself, but I thought about not being here,
Mm,
which is also a form of suicidal ideation. And I knew enough not to say that out loud, but I thought it, and realized I could pinpoint, this isn't healthy. It's
yeah.
it's not healthy.
Did it ever occur to you to seek therapy, or you knew that coaching was definitely a
Oh,
better route?
oh no, I did. I went to therapy, couples. I did, well, the person who we did couples therapy with, I went to him for individual counseling. And that's when I said I tried hard to stay, right? But I was leaving out of each session, after I picked up all the tissue that I use in the session. I'm like, how am I better? I'm going right back into the lion's den, if you will, and it's not helping me. I even saw another therapist, and she wanted to put me on medication, and I'm like, that's not going to help me.
Mhm.
I'm not. I mean, it was mild depression, but it was situational depression,
Mhm.
right? How do you deal with situational depression? You change the situation. You don't medicate yourself
Yeah.
through it. So that didn't last. I didn't even, once I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But then I got to work with my self development, and got to the point where, through some other circumstances, I then decided to leave.
And so just to be clear, it doesn't appear that you are uneducated or living below poverty levels. So what is your profession?
I'm a physician.
You're a physician. So a very highly educated woman, right? And it would appear that someone like you would never be caught up in something like this, right?
That is the myth. That's the myth. Um, and I think part of it is you not really knowing what you're getting yourself into. And then once you're in it, you have built up um, the appearance. You have um, collected some things that showed, you quote unquote have made it. And now, how do you unravel life when you haven't really put your finger on it? And it's kind of like, and people don't believe you, with a fear that is not, that they're not going to believe you.
Were you ever at any point worried about what it would look like if you were not married and like couldn't keep up with appearances or the Joneses, you know?
So I think yes, but it wasn't to the that level. It was just one more thing to think about. It was like, okay, um, how does it work with the finances? Would I be able, we have this huge mortgage. We've got private school. We've got somebody cutting the grass. you know,
Mhm.
we we've got all of these things. We've got the vacation that's already planned and paid for. How do you unravel all of that and be able to wrap your head around it? And then on top of that, what about the children? How am I trying to protect them from a life where it's a single family household, or single parent household? What about my daughter, and as she gets older, and with how her relationships are, how is my son going to learn that this isn't the way that you treat your um, the woman in your life, right? Um, so there were multiple things. Now on top of that, I was also I was also a pastor's wife for
Yeah.
15 years, right? So I already had that other realm of, okay, can I can I leave? You know, I've made a covenant in front of God to say this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I will serve. But now it's more hurtful than it is helpful. And how, I mean, I'm leading ministry and all that kind of stuff. How do I step away from that? And I had to just completely just shield that part of my life because I couldn't think, it was overwhelming. So at that point, how how the house was going to get split and how it would look on the outside, at that point it I didn't care. Okay, but it was definitely something that was on, as I said, it was on the checklist. At this point, I'm fighting for my life, literally fighting for my life and for my children's future and what would now happen.
And I want to just bring light to the fact that you are a woman of faith, right? You are a pastor's wife in this situation. And, someone again viewing and listening may be thinking, well, I'm active in the church, I'm serving and a ministry in the church. And I should not, right? Here comes the shoulding on yourself. I should not have suicidal ideation, right? I should not um, feel like I'm in autopilot. I should I should be rejoicing and grateful for everything that God's given me. So, what would you say to that person and to like how they can reconcile that?
Yeah, so I think that we do a lot of things and we put ourselves in boxes, right? We may be boxed in, but then we then bring the walls in closer, and we act like we can't get out of the box that we put ourselves in. And the thing that I had to say to that is, um, I don't believe that you continue to live in a prison when we have been called to be free. Mhm. And I had to free myself. I was asking God, God, deliver me, release me from this, release me. And I got to a place where I gave myself permission. And it was a tormenting kind of time. Like, God, am I supposed to stay here after all this? I've stayed 19 years. How much longer? And once I decided that I had had enough, there was about a 2 week period, and I was in church, different church. A church. I moved into an apartment, and we had gone to the church that was down the street. And actually, it wasn't in church. I was actually on my way to visit a friend of mine who was in the hospital, and the song came on. Donald Lawrence. It's called "Deliver Me," and as clear as it was, there's a part of the song that says, "You are now released."
Hmm.
And when I heard it, the tears just started to flow. I was thankful for the message. But the thing that I came away with is that there are some things that we have to do. We have to start the process, and then there will be the next step will be revealed. And to kind of bring it kind of full circle, actually, I was on the radio. I was on, where was I? 106.1, and then WOLB on Saturday. And the thing that she read my bio, and the host, she was like, you know what? I think 98% of this is stuff that happened that you accomplished after you got divorced. And I was like, yes. I mean, you could talk about Forbes, you can talk about Harvard. You can talk about International Woman of the Year 2 years in a row. You can talk about the different books. You can talk about additional speaking engagements. Every other than me being a physician and me birthing 2 kids, everything that I've accomplished has been after divorce on the other side. And I'm not advocating for divorce, but I'm advocating for health. I'm advocating for mental fortitude. I'm advocating for your future. I'm advocating for your destiny. And when you know that your destiny is more than where you are, you have to take some action. Okay. Sometimes it's cleaving to something, someone, right? Marriage. But sometimes it is going in the opposite direction to say, you know what? This isn't serving me. I know it as clear as day. And there's some hardness that you have to get through in order to get on the other side.
Yeah. Like what I hear you saying is like you you built yourself up inside, right?
Mhm.
By replenishing yourself and, getting the support you needed, the plan in place, right?
Mhm.
And then you declared that you're going to be free, right? To be,
Mhm.
just to
Mhm.
exist.
Yeah.
And then when you chose that, you created who you are today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I have a coaching paradigm that says I create my experience in the world. And that's what I did. It came with a price, but that's exactly what I did. I created my experience. And it's it's kind of like when the Bible talks about writing the vision, right? It's through my faith, but there's a there's a place where I have to dream it, right? I dream it, then I get it edited. I'm like, God, is this what you is this do you want to change anything? It's written in pencil. Fix the lines, you know. And then he's like, write the vision, read the vision, and now run with the vision. We think our new life is just going to fall in our laps. But one of the imagery things I'd say is like for birds. You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about um, his eyes on the sparrow, and he will provide for the sparrow, right? But when you look at the bird and the worm, what does the bird have to do,
It has to see where the worm is and then pick it up.
right?
Yeah.
He has to fly to the ground. He has to do this in the ground, right? He has to get the worm. The worm is provided,
Hmm.
but there's some action that has to happen. You don't see worms flying up and going into
No,
the birth. No, no, that's not how it works,
you have to dig
right?
for that. Yeah.
Right. You have to do something. You have to take some action. Again, give myself permission
Yeah.
to leave. I had to take some action first before the next phase of life could start.
Yeah. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking like for my uh the way I hear that is I do this thing that I call fantasizing, right? Similar to what you're saying. So
Mm-hmm.
like I fantasize and like I feel all the feels, I see clearly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I write down the action I have to take to make that fantasy real, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then execute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yep.
but there's a part you missed. Right? Cuz like as you're executing sometimes you feel a little weak and you're just like can I really do this? Can I really hang in there?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why the fantasy for me is super important because I got to feel it again. I'm like, oh, but how is it going to feel on the other side? Oh, yes. Yep. I'm doing it, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
that keeps me in action.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's good. Yes, you definitely have to experience it. And there's always going to come the time when you are questioning if this is what you heard. Is this really going to happen? Is this really for me? No, this is some for somebody else. And one of the things that that you said about the way that you fantasize is that you have experience in it working,
mhm,
right? And as we start taking steps, once we start moving, now we have evidence that it is working.
yes,
But if you've never taken any action, you're more likely to continue to pull back because you don't have any history with trusting yourself and taking the action and then continuing to move forward.
yeah. So, creating the creation as you're moving forward.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation. I wanted to have this conversation in this way, because people don't know what they don't know.
Hmm.
And that's the whole premise of what people miss. So
Hmm.
if you're thinking that, I'm going through the motions and I'm just, life is dull and boring, there may be something that you're missing. There may be something deeper. Like, how are you being treated? Do you love how you're being treated? You know, what took your joy away?
Hmm.
Why are you not looking forward to every day, right? It may not be because your clothes don't fit, you know,
Right, right,
right? Because some people think I gotta just lose weight, but it may not be physical.
right. And I'm going to say this, sometimes the weight gain is a barrier. One, you're eating to survive. That's the thing that, I mean, I used to love going to the grocery store because that was the only place where I wasn't questioned 50 times. Why aren't you home? When you coming home? I mean, it was a lot of things going on, right? But if I said I was at the grocery store, nobody cared, right?
Mhm.
But if I said I'm going to hang out with friends, what time you coming home? I can't believe you're going out. You going out and leaving me here. All the things that now makes me say, okay, whatever. So it may not affect what I'm doing to that tonight, but it is going to affect the next time I decide to go out. I think, you know what, I'm going to hear it, so I'm just not going to go. And
Yeah.
I wasted many years of living underneath of my potential and not enjoying life the way life should could have been enjoyed.
I mean, and uh, just as a reframe, I wouldn't say that you wasted it because, like, right, we really have to live the life we live to
Mm,
become who we are. So,
mm.
um, I'm saying that more for people who are listening. I know that you understand that, but it's just like, don't feel like you're wasting your life right now. You know, this is your path for a reason. So,
Yes, and what I would say is I agree with that happened in order for me to develop some strength and fortitude and to become who I am. However, there were I wish I had lived it differently. If I could go back, I would, but I know it would there were pivotal points in me getting to here.
yeah. So, thank you so much for this conversation. And how would you like to close us out? Any final words of wisdom?
So I would say, so I am a life and business coach, and I started with the life coaching first because that was who I needed. I was who I needed to be for others, and then through the process of me building my business, I now use life and business coaching together. And so I would close with wherever you are, one is acknowledge what has been going on with you. We spend too much of our life being mute about what we're experiencing. But then once you tell your story, you're gonna get, oh my gosh, you too. Oh my, I mean, I'm in so many rooms and people are like, oh my gosh, I went through the exact same thing, and you never know what someone is going through until someone starts to talk. But I'm going to close with what I said earlier, is that you get to create your own experience in the world. And the key word there is create, which is an action word. So we need to start taking some action in order to create the experience that we want to have. And if you are struggling with that, get some help. Get some help. Go to therapy, get a coach, get into some groups. Sometimes just some accountability and some camaraderie helps us just kind of offload and debrief and get us to a place where we're now able to move forward, so that you can grow into the person that you have been called to be.
Yes. And I'm going to make a suggestion that you connect specifically with Dr. Marcia, um, and attend some of her events. She has the Refueled and
On fire. and
On Fire.
and Cordelia will be coming to the stage April 26th. So if you are in the DMV, please, you can go to my website, drmarcia.com, and you'll be able to find all the information. You can get into the networking space. I have um, a representative from, or anchor from Fox 45 coming. There's going to be some other heavy hitters in the room. So please come out and support. And you never know what you may get.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us live. And if you're listening to this sometime in the future, share this with another heart and share this with another soul, and choose joy and choose your pleasure. And don't live another day missing living the way you choose to live. Good
Mhm.
night. And I'm ending the show, but we're going to stay on live.
Okay.
Okay. Is it really ended? It's so funny because look, now the go live button is showing. And I'm ending the show, but we're going to stay on live.